Hello, it is the 2nd of July, and this is an update video for Archeology Rush. So, this is going to be a slightly different video because this is a Changelist video. So, every 4 videos, I will do a play test of the game and record that and give my thoughts on that. And talk about what's sort of been changed and what's been updated. In the meantime, I wanted to be able to show off some of the changes that have been made to the game that maybe aren't captured or aren't as obvious, and view that from the perspective of the editor rather than the perspective of the uh, game itself. And I thought this would be a good way to, as the game is taking up shape and we don't necessarily always have interesting things to show off, but rather just making it. And also, I think that as we get towards the end of a narrative, there are things that maybe I don't want to show off as much. Um, Even though this devlog is there to record the tools and the progress that I've made in Archaeology Rush, and that's sort of been the focus for the last 2 years. That's now the focus for this. So just to show off some of the changes, which I do not promise to be pretty. So let's look at the cutscene rework that I've worked on over the last week. The main point of that is I just want to get cutscenes working again. These aren't the tomb cutscenes that you may have seen in previous videos, but if you rewind a couple of months ago, you'll notice that I got cutscenes working in the form of outside of tomb cutscenes. So the main point there was to actually get cutscenes in a position where you didn't have to be in a tomb to be able to tell some portion of the story. So in that sense, I wanted to be able to show off some parts of the narrative without and set the environment and the scene without having to always jump into a tomb and tell the story in a tomb. I don't think I'll use this super lot, but it's something that I wanted to have in because in terms of writing narrative, it's important. So the main areas here were actually just, first of all, adding the ability to start a cutscene. So I added in the enter, leave, action, and alt action cutscene lists. And so what these are lists that can be used to refer to whether you should start a cutscene. Also, you'll notice that I have a dialogue list for each of those, and that's something that I can talk about later about how the dialogue system works in another video. But yes, basically the short answer is when you enter, leave, or press the action button or alt action button on a location on the map, it will query whether it should run a cutscene or play some dialogue. And this is made up of 2 parts: the unlock and the cutscene path string, which is sort of 2 parts. 1, the location, and then 2, the cutscene that you want to play. So we don't have an unlock here because there's nothing required to unlock, no flag that needs to be activated for this to be the case. That means in theory this should be accessible from the start, but because we have a unlock key on this location, effectively implicitly the unlock key is HP campsite. So as soon as you unlock this location, you can unlock this cutscene when you press action. And then the next step is to jump on to the second part of this, which is the campsite and 2 letters part of it. So this is the 2 parts of it. The first part is the scene, and the second part is the cutscene itself. So that points to our asset directory, which is what's queried to go and work out what to load. So there's the scene directory, which has a reference to campsite, and that would just load in this cutscene level. And then we have a cutscene resource. This cutscene resource has an ID of 2 letters, so that would be the thing found second part. And then we have the ability to kick off this dialogue string, and that's a similar key that I will talk through another time. So basically when we start this cutscene, it will play this dialogue. The second part is a manifest, and this is a collection of all the people that are involved in the scene. And so this is useful and needed for entomb scenes because we need to know, hey, actually, we only want to play this cutscene if Henry, Amelia, and Lily are being played. And so, we can have those people talk, and they don't talk if they're not there. But for the characters that aren't there and need to be spawned in, they can have a spawn data. So because we are spawning into a scene that has no one there, we are in a position where the cutscene that we want, the players that we want to spawn don't exist. So we spawn in this special cutscene version of Henry, and then spawn him at the HP location, which is a node that just exists just here. So just here. So yeah, that's the cutscene, and I will show off what that cutscene looks in its current form, which is not a final version. Next week is the feature that I added for the dialogue manager. So I use the dialogue manager plugin, which I will add to the description of this playlist. I did have a dialogue system in before, but I felt like I actually needed something a little bit more robust. And sometimes it's better to use something off the shelf than create a whole new thing. And I quite like this plugin when I was researching it. So here's all the dialogue that's currently in the game. It's not final. But we added in a position, or the dialogue that's in the Henry Pepper demo, apologies. I added in a couple of functions, but what I wanted to do is just add in the ability to check the letter system and check that the letter system is has a letter to the player. So like we've unlocked a certain thing, I wanted to make sure that we could unlock make sure that we've unlocked a letter or have a letter. So if you have two parts, and then you could, two parts of this papyrus, then you would be able to unlock the different dialogue, and just allows for a better kind of dialogue tree that is more understanding of what the player's already read. So to do this, I basically needed to modify the dialogue system. So I have a dialogue manager. So I like to write this game just in C# just because I prefer to write in this style. But yes, I have dialogue manager, and in here we have these functions: has letter and has unlocked, and these are tasks that return a variant. And we wanted to basically know has unlocked very easy. We've got a very simple way to check whether we've unlocked a different key, and we can just query the save system for that. But letters were a little bit harder because, as you can see from here, we are in a position where we have a letter manager. The letter manager's life cycle is tied to the world map, as in you can only get a letter if you are in a position to look at the letter. But this is a slight issue because we want to give letters as part of the dialogue system anywhere in the game. And so I had to create a global letter manager. And this global letter manager exists sort of permanently. And what it does is it just checks whether we have a letter, and then checks in our kind of queued up letters that it's going to be passed to the letter desk system. And then externally, if it doesn't find anything and is able to return true, it checks whether we have our data in the saved data. So we have a chunk of saved data, and I will talk through, I think at some point, the save system and how I've done that. And actually, this is part of the reason why I wanted to make these style of videos, because there have been so much more foundational things that I have done that I haven't always been able to show, apart from just the menu, which is less interesting to see. So some of these more technical videos, I think, will be a little bit more interesting. That being said, we get our save data and then we check if there are letters that contain the key or if there is an envelope that contains the key. And if so, we return that, and we return false if we don't have it. And so because this global letter manager exists all through the whole game, we can do it. We can query the letter system anywhere. Yeah, so that was the main problem that I sort of dealt with and handled this week, is getting that working so that we can have some more interesting and reactive dialogue. I will call the video there. There's lots more that I have done this week, and if you go and download the latest version, you can probably see a couple of those changes, and I'll put them in the change list. But those are the two that I wanted to cover in this update video. Thanks for watching and have a lovely week. Bye.